Why is it so hard to change? Now, the majority of people that I see, that I do change work with, the majority of my clients are people who have come to see me because they have been unable to change the problem themselves. And that makes sense when you think about it. They've tried various means, they've thought about it in all different kinds of ways. They may even have gone to see various psychotherapists, hypnotherapists, other people to help them make the change. But up until that point, they have failed to make the change they want to make. So then they come and see me. And I say, by the way, the vast majority of people, because there's a small number of people that come and see me very early on in a problem because they've suddenly started getting panic attacks, for example, and they don't know what to do about it. So they come and see me as a first choice rather than as a last choice. But most of the people I see have already tried different ways of changing and have failed to do so. So why is it so hard to change? Well, the answer to that question lies in how we as human beings work, how our minds work, how our neurology works, if you want to think about it like this, our brain, our nervous system. What tends to happen is we drop into certain patterns of behaviour. We drop into certain patterns of thinking. Certain patterns run within our neurology at certain times. And the problem that we have is one of these patterns. Now, what you often get is a situation whereby somebody will know they want to make a change. And they actually, when they're sitting there calmly thinking about it, you can ask them all sorts of questions and they can come up with all sorts of information about why changing is absolutely the right thing to do, why the behaviour they're currently doing or the thoughts or the feelings they're currently having is no good for them whatsoever. They even often people will say to me, I know exactly what I need to do, I'm just not doing it. And there's a reason for this. Imagine when you're doing your problem, when you're there, it's actually happening. When you're doing that problem, you can think of it, if you like, as being in a kind of a trance. It's an automated sequence, it's an automated pattern almost within your neurology. Even if there's a lot of thoughts going on, those chains of thoughts, those cascades of thoughts, are often pretty much kind of automated. So when you're there in the moment, doing your problem, you're in this sort of a trance. Let's think of it as like a trance. Now, when you're in that trance, what you don't have access to is all the information that you need to stop you doing that, to get you out of it, because it's not included in the trance. Now, this concept comes from a lot of research around what's called state-dependent learning. That when you're in a particular state, so we're talking about a trance here, when you're in a particular state, you only have access to information that's contained, that's encoded within that state. So you get this often with people who study for exams. They study for exams, they know all the stuff, but when they get into the exam room, they panic and they can't come up with the answers. The reason being is because the answers, although they have them, are not encoded within the state that they're in when they're in the exam room. If they could get back to the state they were in when they were learning the stuff, they would probably come up with the answers easily and effortlessly. And this is why it's so hard to change. Because whatever it is that people do, whether it's nail biting, whether it's smoking, whether it's a social anxiety issue or whatever, you know, they may know. People may give them good advice and say, just relax, just be yourself when you're in that social situation. But that information isn't coded into the little trance they go into, the problem trance, when they're in the situation. And this is why often advice, even though it's good advice, doesn't help. This is often why psychoanalysis, coming up with all the reasons why this thing is as it is, and maybe other forms of psychotherapy where they may look at motivations and all of these sorts of things, none of that information will make any difference whatsoever until it's encoded into the problem trance. At that point, you have access to it. At that point, you can make a different choice. And at that point, you can really change. So that's why it's hard to change. I'm going to do another video now, which is about why it's easy to change.